Today on Hold 'em Accountable, we're talking with John Whetstone, candidate for Indiana's 4th Congressional District. And this is a guy who's lived the struggle. He grew up in a trailer park, worked his way up, and now runs a small business that's become a safe space for the community. From watching the healthcare system fail his family to helping neighbors forced out by corporate rent hikes, John's story is one of resilience, empathy, and real world perspective. This isn't about party lines, it's about being left behind. Welcome to the show, John.
Me today, and thank you for the intro.
Tell us a little about yourself.
Well, you said quite a bit in the beginning about it, but yeah, I grew up working class family in a trailer park where we struggled, and a lot of it wasn't because my parents weren't trying hard. Both of them had two jobs each. Medical debt was really crushing our family, and so that was the only place we could afford, like most of our neighbors. No one wanted to be there, but you do what you have to do to survive. Um, and growing up, always told, work hard, things are gonna get better, things are gonna get better. Now as an adult who works hard, I'm seeing things aren't getting better for my community because people are still struggling to pay their rent. They're struggling to buy their groceries. And I interact with that every day at my business. So it's a big reason of why I'm here and doing what I'm doing.
So, what motivated you to run for Congress in Indiana's 4th? What experiences or issues pushed you to step into this race?
So as you mentioned earlier, I own a small business that's kind of a safe space for people where we have inclusive events and everything like that. But we buy a lot of used items because we're a retro game store. About every other day, I have someone coming in selling me their prized possessions so they can buy groceries. And there's only so many of those stories you can hear without being like, I need to do something about this. I would like to share one of those stories with you if that's okay.
Yeah.
So, the other day, I had a gentleman come in. He works at it's a factory that I don't know exactly what they do in town. They're a smaller one, something with machining. But they're expecting less work in the coming months, so they're already starting to narrow down hours. So he went from a full 40 down to 35, which isn't the biggest drop. But then with the increase in food prices, plus his apartment complex just got bought out by an out-of-state investor. So it went from being $650 a month to almost 900. And this all hit him span of 2 weeks roughly. And he's came in to sell the one thing he had of value that was his and not his like family items. And that was a card collection that he's had for the last 25 years. And this is the type of card collection, because I've been in the business for a while, I can tell he has an extra $5 every few months. He buys a pack of cards. And to have this man in there crying, trying to just get enough money to make sure they had the rent paid, that really, really hurt. To have to watch that. And then what pushed over the top when I asked him, I was like, well, what's your plan for next month? There was no plan. And that's all too common, his story in our area.
The 4th District is a mix of urban, suburban, and rural communities. How would you balance the differing needs across that variety of areas?
Yeah, so we are a very diverse district in part because how large we are. There is places to start that we're all in need of, like our transit needs fixed. We're in a very car reliant area. Uh, and there are some rural transit options, but we need to expand upon those, just like our suburban areas. We need to expand on that. There's all too often, there's people who their grocery store of choice is a Dollar General because they don't own a car and that's the closest thing they can walk to. In our district, there's very few cities who have buses available. So I think to start, we just need to start finding the common issues that do apply to all these areas and work on those, and then move on to the more specifics.
Many voters are concerned about inflation, cost of living, and the economy. What concrete economic policies would you support to help families not just survive, but thrive?
So, big part of my campaign is pushing for a $17.25 an hour minimum wage. There's multiple reasons for that. Back to Dollar General being a good example. It's one of the largest employers in our district, and they pay their employees around $8 or $9 an hour. I don't know about you. I can't live off that. And so these people are having to string together 2 or 3 of these jobs just to get to that $17 to $20 an hour, like worth of work, either they're doing, 2 jobs. So we need to start there. for like that will alleviate a lot of pressure on housing and food insecurity. Another thing we need to address is Medicare for all. Too many people are being crushed under their medical debt and just unable to pay it and constantly being harassed by debt collectors, even going bankrupt in some cases from folks I've talked to. So I do really think if we address the wage issues, that'll alleviate stress on a few other things like housing and food. But then we also have to fix our healthcare system because it's not working and just crushing people.
How do you view the role of the federal government in issues like healthcare access, mental health, and prescription drug costs? What reforms would you advocate for?
Yeah. So again, I'm a big fan of Medicare for all. I think the government has an obligation to provide us with quality healthcare that's reasonably priced. And by going to that type of system, the government gets to, has 300 million people that it's vouching for and negotiating for, so we can drive the cost of everything down.
How do you see your role in immigration policy? What approach would you support at the border and show how we should balance enforcement with humanitarian concerns?
So I want to start this with what we're currently doing of abusing people's rights and terrorizing communities. That has to stop. People have a right to due process. We need to give that to them. It, even if it's inconvenient, like they say, that's part of it. Rights are rights. Having a strong border, that doesn't bother me. But what we do need to do is look at the issue. Why are people wanting to come to our country so much? We have an obligation as neighbors to talk to our fellow countries and be like, what's going on?
Agriculture is important in many parts of this district. What are your plans or proposals to support farmers from subsidies, trade policy, to dealing with supply chain issues?
Yeah, unfortunately, we have destroyed some markets recently with our trade wars that are going to be hard to get back. But I don't know if subsidies is necessarily the answer. I feel like the government there's a lot of need for food throughout our country. Food banks are being super pressed right now with the amount of people going through. I stopped in one the other day to help out, and the lobby was just full, and uh, just so many desperate people needing food. I think the government can do a better job working straight with the farmers to acquire it. So it's not necessarily a subsidy as much as they're getting paid for their hard work. So I think the government, there's opportunity there to create more programs to buy food directly from the farmers to get it to places that needs to go.
How do you define patriotism, and what does it look like in your everyday policy work?
I define patriotism as the love of your country in a way where you want to help as many of your fellow people as possible and to do as much as you can for the common good of everyone. And my personal policy, again, going back to raising wages and Medicare for all, those are things that help people's everyday lives. And to me, just helping people's lives, that's patriotism.
Hold Them Accountable is the podcast name. What does accountability mean to you in public office? How would you ensure that you're accountable to your constituents?
Much like I'm doing now, where I'm trying to talk to as many people as I can and just know what's going on in their lives. I want to still be there and be able to do that, whether that's through town halls or just trying to make an effort to go to every Democrat, Republican, Libertarian monthly meeting that I can, just to show them that I'm there and hear their concerns. Again, even it's not about Democrat, Republican to me. Like I'll show up to a Republican meeting if they want me to talk. Like I wanna hear what they have to say, even if it's stuff I don't necessarily agree or like at times. I want to hear it. I want to be part of the conversation with them about it.
In an era of loud extremes on both sides, how will you distinguish yourself? What principles do you refuse to compromise on? And are you willing to work with people whom you disagree with?
All right. Things I won't compromise on. Anything that's human rights related, workers' rights related, we owe it to everyone in our country to not be flexible on those. They deserve a good quality of life. How I work with people who want to flex on those, that's going to be harder because that's inflexible for me. But as long as there's a common ground there that's going to help everyday people or it's going to further human rights, I'm down to work with them on it.
What would you say is the biggest challenge for your district? And what plan do you have to address it?
And going back to the wages, I do think with Indiana's minimum wage being stuck at 7.25 an hour, as well as that being the federal one, we don't make enough money, and it's trickling down to every other aspect of people's lives, whether it's putting out groceries on their credit card and just expanding their debt, not being able to afford housing. I do think our 17.25 an hour minimum wage, it will be a big step in addressing that issue.
How will you engage with voters who feel disillusioned or like their voice doesn't matter? What strategy do you have for outreach in communities that are often overlooked?
So one community that's often overlooked, in a way, is younger people like myself. We constantly hear, "Hey, we want you. We need why aren't younger people showing up?" And then they don't want us as part of the conversation. So one thing I've been making a big effort to do is talk to every young person I see, and I've been trying to get them to go to their local meetings. Like I'll be in Putnam County, run into someone, be like, "Hey, they do these awesome monthly meetings. They have a young person in charge." So that's one way I've been doing is just trying to like the young people and show them I actually care because I am one of them.
Campaign finance. What are your views on dark money, PACs, and transparency? Would you support reforms to reduce the influence of big donors?
100%. We don't need companies telling us who to vote for. We don't need rich people telling us who to vote for. I want your opinion, Derek, on who to vote for. I want my neighbor's opinion. So we do need to get large donors just out of politics. We don't need them.
In your view, what is the role of the media and independent commentary in shaping public opinion? And how will you interact with these forces if elected?
So part of my past, I played Magic the Gathering professionally, and I quickly found out if you upset social media personalities, it's hard to get going again on your own because every article will get written bad about you, every video will be bad about you, but that's okay. As long as you're being truthful and everything like that, it's fine. People can say bad things about you. It doesn't bother me. But it is important. What they do is important because everyone has influence. So we do need to, like, I do want to appear on shows like yours and others. Again, they can be right-leaning ones. I'd be happy to show up because it's important to have these conversations.
Okay, now comes the time for our rapid fire round. Yes, no questions, no explanation. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Will you commit to holding at least 4 in person town halls per year in the district? Should members of Congress be banned from trading individual stocks?
Please.
Okay. Do you support an independent commission for redistricting in Indiana?
Yes.
Do you support raising the federal minimum wage to at least $15 an hour?
Yeah.
Do you believe climate change is real and largely driven by human activity?
Yes.
Would you vote to protect access to IVF and contraception nationwide? Do you support term limits for members of Congress?
Yes.
Should every state be required to allow early voting and no excuse mail-in voting?
Yes.
Do you believe the U.S. should continue strong support for Ukraine?
Yes.
Should marijuana be legalized at the federal level?
Yes.
If you lose this election, will you accept the results without contest?
Yes.
Do you agree with ranked choice voting?
Yes.
Once again, I want to say thank you, John, for joining us today. And whether you agree with his politics or not, one thing is clear. This is someone who understands what it's like to struggle, to fight, and keep showing up for his community. He's lived the blue collar life. He's seen the cracks in our healthcare system, and he's turning that frustration into action. That's the kind of passion we need more of. People willing to do instead of just talk. If you want to learn more about John and his campaign, I will link his socials in the description. And hey, if you like this conversation, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss the next episode. We've got more candidates, more conversations, more accountability coming your way. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and always hold them accountable.